see. It's the 15th round of the World Championship in 2025, and these are the tyres for the drivers to use across the course of the weekend in dry conditions. A step softer than 1 year ago as Pirelli try to get the teams down the route of a two-stop when it comes to the strategy tomorrow. All about one-lap pace today, though. Round 15 of the World Championship, and it is the final practice hour in the company of me, Alex James, and him, Jolyon Palmer.
What a beautiful spot for a racetrack. In the dunes by the North Sea, and we are so finely poised as we start Saturday's action. Piastri with a 9-point lead over Norris in the championship. Norris with the advantage yesterday in practice. So can he cement that before the all-important qualifying session here? It's difficult to overtake. Obviously, we know between the two McLarens there could be strategy differences now. They are racing each other first and foremost. But today is going to be an important one, I think, for Lando to continue that form from yesterday and keep Oscar at arm's reach.
Yeah, the crowd have made their way in. To give you an idea, it was very, very wet a couple of hours ago. F1 Academy has just put on a thrilling qualifying session. You can see every minute of the season on F1 TV, and they've got races coming up across the weekend. They've had their qualifying session out there, and you can see the state the track is in. We've got wet, we've got dry, the racing line drying out, and the air temperature is 19 degrees, as is the track temperature, also at 19 degrees. On the right-hand side of your picture, the story of the weekend so far, as Jolyon was telling you, Lando Norris, the man to beat.
Yeah, and we're not expecting rain later on. There is a chance, but it's just dwindling for the qualifying and for the race. So I'm not expecting drivers to be in too much of a hurry to get out. It's not going to be good news for Lance Stroll, who had a hefty crash at the start of FP2 yesterday. So they have rebuilt the car. They broke curfew last night, Aston Martin to do so, but that's he needs to catch up on some mileage, and it's not great that there's still quite a lot of dampness off the racing line and a little bit on it. And as the guys were down in the lower paddock, Fernando Alonso came out in his civvies still. So I don't think he's going to be going anywhere in too much of a rush.
Yeah, looking at the weather forecast, there are a few drops, but nothing major expected. This can sometimes be the slightly slower session in terms of getting the action out on the racetrack. But as you look at the Constructors' Championship on the left-hand side, McLaren on the way to retaining their title, a close battle between Ferrari and Mercedes. Red Bull falling back in fourth, and then Williams leading the midfield, which is going to be fascinating to see whether they can hang on to that fifth place, with both Sauber looking strong going into the summer break, and Aston Martin running really well in both sessions yesterday, with Fernando Alonso second quickest and really looking effective in the slow speed stuff, the Aston Martin, as they did back in Budapest. Charles Leclerc fifth in the championship, a little bit despondent, but aware that things can change, as we saw in the last Grand Prix weekend when Ferrari looked well adrift. Conditions changed, he stepped forward, 27th career pole position in Budapest, but without the race performance at the end to match. Race control have deemed it a wet track, and practice 3 officially getting underway with a green light at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, so it means intermediates can be used for exploratory laps if any team so wishes, but no one is too eager to get out there. There might be the obligatory scrub tyres that we see from typically Aston Martin. More recently, McLaren, and I think that's why Oscar is already in the car. These guys are going to want to wait until the track dries up for any meaningful data gathering for the drivers' personal computers, their brains, to get dialed back into low fuel, to get into that qualifying mode for 14 corners around here. But in terms of just actually putting a heat cycle through a set of tyres, looks like McLaren may be going for that, with Lando getting in the car as well. Interestingly, I mean, McLaren's Constructors' Championship lead is absolutely gigantic.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Incredible. They won by 14 points last year.
So I think they might win by a few more this year. They've won 2 the last 4 Grand Prix. They've won 5 of the last 6, Canada being the outlier where they ran into each other. They've got a chance to outscore Red Bull from 2023. The Red Bull that was only beaten once all year, and McLaren with a pretty clean final 10 races can actually get a higher total than the mighty Red Bull from 2 years ago. That's how dominant they've ended up.
Amazing, really. Max Verstappen rewriting the record books. Came here a couple of years ago, trying to be just the second driver ever to win 9 Grand Prix in a row. He managed that, then he went on at the next race in Italy to break the all-time record set by another Red Bull driver, Sebastian Vettel, in 2013. But it's a measure of how they have continued to set the pace. Great tight battle last year, coming from Red Bull started the season last year as the dominant team. Then it turned in to a really impressive fight back from McLaren, but Ferrari were there. And but for that man making contact with Sergio Perez in Baku, could easily have been Ferrari with the largest trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, well, Ferrari have fallen away as much as McLaren have pushed forward, and they were really miserable in downbeat yesterday. Charles Leclerc, I lost count of the amount of verys that he came in with before saying how bad it was yesterday. So a lot of work to do for them. So McLaren need 301 points to get a higher total than Red Bull managed 2 years ago. With 10 races to go, that's 30.1 points per race. Now, there were 2 fewer races in 2023, so it's not a perfectly fair stat for Red Bull, but it does just show, again, how good they are, and the drivers generally driving to a very high and consistent level. Can Aston Martin be a team that joins them in the fight? Fernando Alonso was rapid yesterday, and you mentioned Williams accruing the points early on to be 5th in the championship. Aston Martin are piling on the pressure now, and Stroll will be hoping to catch up some track time in this one. But Alonso looks like he might even be able to have a sniff at the second row.
Yeah, he will want conditions to be atypical. He will want slightly cooler temperatures. You're looking at Isaac Hadjar out there on the circuit, driver who had the interruption yesterday, having to pull over in FP2, told to stop the car. He's out there on the intermediate tyres. Grooves on the tyres to evacuate the water from the racetrack. Doesn't appear to be much water on the racing line.
No, this is a pretty bad condition really for the start of a practice session. The fact that it was declared by race control a wet track means that this team can run the intermediate tyres. So it allows Hadjar the chance to get out. And remember, he had an issue with the battery at his power unit yesterday. So it's actually a good chance for them. They've had a rebuild of that one as well. So Isaac can get out there and just put a lap on the car again, make sure that everything's working as they hope, and use an intermediate tyre so you're not putting anything through a set for later on. But for everyone else, it's definitely not wet enough to actually legitimately run an Inter, but it's not dry enough to do anything in anger on a slick. You've just got to hold out now for later on. So it could be a nice quiet 20 minutes for us.
Have to do some work and tell you that it was a very, very busy, very green. I bet it is, Isaac. That's the report from the man who was leading here in Formula 2 a couple of years ago when the rain conditions meant the race had to be abandoned. Officially listed as a win, but he didn't get any points and he didn't get a podium. So he doesn't celebrate that one. The next year, he went on to win 4 races in a brilliant title battle with Gabriel Bortoleto, and both of those rookies have been outstanding in their first campaigns in Formula 1. And Isaac Hadjar trying to pick up, because he's had a couple of races not threatening the top 10 on a Sunday.
So the F2 race where there was a big first lap crash on this part of the circuit down towards Sky Flag.
Yeah.
In the rain.
We've had a couple of dramatic ones around this racetrack in the second tier of motorsport, and intriguingly, they don't visit here anymore, which I think is deliberate. Logistically, very, very narrow pit lane for the Formula 2 teams. They're back in action next weekend.
Well, and also watching F1 Academy having their qualifying session earlier on with more water on track, a proper sort of intermediate condition then. And you do realise how tricky the circuit is. Kimi Antonelli found out yesterday in practice as well, putting it in the gravel, getting beached at the start of FP1. It's punishing, it's difficult, it's really narrow. There's so many undulations, so you have blind reference points. You come over the top of a crest and immediately find yourself into a wickedly quick corner. Difficult braking points. You've got banked corners. This final, pretty much all the turns have got a level of camber on them. This final turn, 18 degrees of banking. When you went round in a golf buggy on Thursday, and genuinely you feel like it's about to tip over. Is that steep?
I imagine it does at turn 3.
The final corner is actually to be fair, I walked through turn 3, so I didn't feel it. But turn 3, it starts off more gradual, and then the top of it ramps up, a bit like the Monza banking, which is insane. But yeah, it's the final corner that the drivers take, cruise through, DRS open, absolutely pinned, don't think about it. But when you're actually going on foot or on golf
couple of
buggy,
minutes out the car, you can get ready to jump out. We can just confirm all okay with the car first. A couple of minutes out the car, you can get ready to jump out. We can just confirm all okay with the car first. A couple of minutes out the car, you can get ready to jump out. We can just confirm all okay with the car first. A couple of minutes out the car, you can get ready to jump out. We can
52 minutes to go. It's FP3, and we're watching the man 9 points back in the World Championship. Apologies if you heard any errant team radio there being played in. We're seeing Lando out there on the hard tyre as Lance Stroll is out there on the intermediate. So Aston Martin always find themselves with an early lap on a tyre that they're not too interested in, and that's happened once again. Stroll looking for a clean hour. This is one of his favourite tracks in Formula One, and unfortunately for him, found the wall in turn 3 when you were standing there trackside, but you just repositioned. Nearly through to you immediately. Glad I didn't.
Yeah. He's down there. What's happened? Yeah, difficult part of the circuit. And so this is where we're going to have a look at it there. Coming through this crest, the right-hander with Antonelli, who's just getting straight on with it. Can't wait for the track to dry. And that is the corner there with the banking. You see how close the runoff is on the outside. It's tricky. And I was really enjoying watching there on the entry, pretty much standing up high, looking at the point where Lance crashed. But I just moved around because I wanted to get down to these fast corners, and then heard the thud of an Aston Martin hitting the barriers. Easy to do on that corner because you do barrel speed in and you don't have a lot of room for error. So a little lock up on the front for Lance, and he was into the wall, which is why he's out there also on an inter, just checking the car over, and then Aston Martin will get on with the programme. But like I said, Antonelli not waiting, having to just get on with it, getting more of a feel for the Mercedes.
The driver who turned 19 years of age on August the 25th, the youngest driver to ever lead a Grand Prix, set a fastest lap and start from a pole position of any description. He was on sprint pole in Miami. He's had a couple of wins around here in the junior championships as well, and he will hope to be making his way to Q3 by the end of the qualifying hour. That's a wonderful shot of the first turn. Tarzan corner around this racetrack. And let's check in with Kimi Antonelli over the curb at turn 11. And then usually they're running so deep, so many scruffy moments throughout the entire field of drivers unable to take the speed off that they needed into that corner, slewing wide. And you've got a little bit of gravel that's glued down there, but we saw plenty of drivers through it. As we look at Valtteri Bottas, he celebrated his birthday, 36, on Thursday. Got a cake, or no, tiramisu on weekend warm-up handed to him. Lucky him, eh? That's what you get. Getting drivers to appear with desserts. I love it. He's heading to Cadillac next year. Big move for him. Very, very motivated. He'll be on the grid next year. Franco Colapinto looking for a second half of the season, which allows him to say the same.
Yeah, I think at the start of the year, probably Valtteri would have wolfed down a quick tiramisu. Now he's got a race drive for next year. He's got to think driver weights, fitness, get it all back again and dial back in.
It's one of the key memories I have. So we commentated together on GP2, my first year of covering any championship on the Grand Prix weekend back in 2015. You were reserve driver that year for Team Enstone, and then when it was announced that you got the drive, you were like, yeah, better get back to that fitness. That's the first
also,
thing you said.
We had an Italian chef at Lotus and Renault.
Spoil.
Oh, the tiramisus were brilliant. They stopped.
That's the first thing that popped into my head when you said that. Yeah, second half of the season, different approach when it comes to desserts. Great to have Valtteri back on the grid. He will partner Sergio Perez, unbelievably experienced lineup. 2 Grand Prix winners at the start of a new team, absolutely crucial. Flavio Briatore, who is running the show at Team Enstone, at Alpine, known by different names through the years. Tolman, Renault, Lotus, and then the Alpine brand for the last couple of years in Formula One. putting public pressure on Franco Colapinto to step forward and get in the points in the second half of the season as he tries to secure an extension at Alpine. But public criticism, pretty old school, but he's an old school boss, Flavio.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be a shock to Franco either. You know, it's Formula One's a results business. It's when you're driving, Liam Lawson very well knows as well. If you're not performing, you know you're going to be under pressure. He had the same at Red Bull, and now he's just finding his feet again with Racing Bulls. Franco doesn't, you know, public pressure or not, he'll know that he needs to start getting some results on the board to secure a drive. And Alpine are in this position where they need a second driver scoring points. They're last in the Constructors' Championship at the moment. They've got a solid gulf to get to the rest of the field as well. And they've got the decision for next year. Still an available seat alongside Gasly, who I think is performing well.
Well, you said to Valtteri on weekend warm-up, you had an option to go to Alpine, and he admitted there'd been conversations there. There's 2 years of talks with Valtteri Bottas since it was first floated, the Cadillac project, to him.
Yeah, and Alpine were speaking to him at the start of the year, and forget they had Jack Doohan in the car for the first 6 races. Then signed Franco Colapinto. But in that time, realised that Franco wasn't quite the step up on Jack that they were maybe expecting. He's still out there and he can still, you know, prove his worth to the team. But they were speaking to Valtteri with Mercedes power units coming in as well. I think there is excitement ahead for Alpine. I think Mercedes power units will be a big boost for the team. But yeah, I thought Valtteri might be quite a nice fit for them. But he's obviously chosen to go with Cadillac. Flavio Briatore saying they didn't really opt for Valtteri either. So somewhere in between, they have not found each other's company too pleasant, and they're going to be rivals next year. But who will be in the second seat at Alpine is a big question. The field is so competitive. Having Bottas and Perez back at Cadillac, I think it's a great statement of intent. I mean, some people would say it's uninspiring to have 2 drivers in their mid-30s who have been sort of second drivers at big teams, and you should give youth a chance. And we've seen this year, you know, young drivers doing amazing work. Hadjar, Bortoleto now as well. Behrman's been really quick. Antonelli's had his moments. But actually, for a team like Cadillac, building from nothing, having 2 Grand Prix winners who have spent years in top teams coming in, that is the obvious decision for them to take. They're both great pedalers still. They're very hungry for the work. And it again shows the depth that we've got in the field. You look through and you think, who hasn't got a Grand Prix winner in their team? And actually, as I say the question, is it Racing Bulls and no one else? Is it every other team has a Grand Prix winner?
Sauber don't have a Grand Prix winner, do they?
Correct.
But
they have a future Grand Prix winner at this rate.
But if you think that, to build on your point, beyond the rookies and Yuki Tsunoda, everyone else has been on a Formula One podium. It's one of the strongest and most competitive eras in Formula One history.
The depth is amazing. You look at Haas, Behrman's looking great. Ocon has had years of being a podium finisher, a Grand Prix winner on his one occasion. Ditto for Gasly at Alpine. These guys on another era could be in top cars, but they haven't had the break. Same with Hülkenberg, who is now a podium finisher at least this year, but you know, in another era would have been right up there. But the depth in talent that's there now is so high. So 2 Grand Prix winners come back to Cadillac, and that it does just focus the attention. When you've only got 1 driver scoring points in that midfield, you're at an inherent disadvantage.
Let's check in with Ruth Buscombe, race-winning strategist down in the pit lane. How's it looking, Ruth?
Oh, thanks for that, Jake. See, stunning introduction. Yep, down in the pit lane, which is actually the wettest part of the track. So outside, out on the 14 corners of this 4.3 kilometre track, it's around 21 degrees Celsius, but the track is dry. It is rather wet here. Why is that? Well, just science, really. We are in the shade from the pit building, but the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that every single one of the 10 pit boxes are dry, and that is because sporting regulation 34.10 is that teams are allowed to dry and alter, aka improve the grip of their own grid boxes by drying, sweeping. So you'll notice that every single one of the 10 grid boxes are in fact dry. It's something teams do. We used to be really sneaky on things on the grid. You used to see teams putting tyres down and all sorts, but they've stopped all of that now. So it's rather just sweeping and blowing. But we'll see more cars out on track shortly, as we see everybody, including reigning champion Max Verstappen, getting in the car as they are heading out.
Thank you, Ruth. All tactics to dry out the pit lane, the grid boxes. Try and get the best launch off the line. We have had a brilliant wet race here in 2023. And we have Gabriel Bortoleto fastest at the moment. Lance Stroll has swapped his intermediate tyres for the softest compound available, hoping for just a clean batch of laps to try and make up for lost time after finding the wall. Happens fairly regularly across the course of the Dutch Grand Prix weekends that we've run. This is the 5th of the modern era. Max Verstappen 3 times a winner around this circuit, and Lando Norris having the most recent victory. Stroll trying to get some laps logged, because Aston Martin have looked incredibly effective with him, with Fernando Alonso as well. And when that midfield battle is so tight, so variable, I don't think Monza is going to be their type of racetrack at all. So you've got to convert the chances that you have as he attacks the wonderful turn 7.
He gave it a bit more margin at turn 3 this time. First push lap of FP3. Soft tyres straight away for Lance, who's got some to use up after yesterday. Through 3 right-handers in the middle sector. Picks it up for the final left-hander in the middle sector. The slower corners are the more critical in that part of the circuit, turns 9 and 10. And then you have the DRS open and you head down towards the final sector, which is really just 2 corners. It's 11 and 12 as a combination, and then this short run to the final turn at 13, where you really just a little stab on the brakes, down a gear and pick it up immediately and blast through the final corner with all of the banking that camera angle does nothing to show us. But Stroll will come across the line and go to the top. We're 2 seconds away from what Norris did to top the times yesterday, though, so gives a bit of an illustration of where the track's at the moment.
And for a form guide, it was Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, George Russell and Max Verstappen, who is targeting the top 5. That's what he said after the session yesterday. Driver who's always been on the podium around here, saying they're struggling with the same things they were earlier in the year. Long corners especially, not their friend at this stage of the season.
It's funny because the long corners haven't been the issue for Red Bull earlier on in the season. But they struggled so much in Budapest to get the car working, to find a consistent balance through the long corners, which was a big thing for Red Bull at the end of last year as well. We heard Max saying the car just doesn't feel connected in terms of getting a balance that they find consistent through a corner. So when you're trying to troubleshoot issues, you need to try and find obviously the root of the problem. Is it oversteer, is it understeer, or just outright grip? You always want more grip, but fundamentally then you need to work on a balance. And when you're struggling with a bit of both, it becomes very, very difficult to dial one in or out without really compromising another area. And these long corners then become particularly hard because you've got big transitional phases. And so turns 9 and 10 here, as we see with Fernando, sweeping it in, trying to pick it up through a mid-corner phase and go. It's very difficult when you have balance issues on both axles, and that's what Red Bull are trying to pick up. Remember, he took pole at Silverstone, a lot of long corners at Silverstone. He took pole in Japan, Suzuka. Loads of long corners in Suzuka as well. So it's an issue right now on the higher downforce circuits for Red Bull, and Max certainly was downbeat as well yesterday. So were Ferrari. Mercedes weren't loving life, although they were a little bit more encouraged of a potential podium battle. But yeah, a lot of the usual front runners are struggling.
Yeah, Max Verstappen's pole positions this year, the glorious test of Suzuka Japan, wonderful lap from him there. Backed it up in Saudi Arabia and Miami as well, which has long corners in the first sector, and then that setup gamble to go for low downforce at Silverstone with a twist in the tail of an excellent Q3. We've seen some fascinating and thrilling qualifying hours so far this year, and everyone, the maximum scored in terms of pole positions this year is 4. It's the same for Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, which is a measure of what Verstappen has done in qualifying if you consider just how good that McLaren is.
Norris on a soft tyre now, the man that should be favourite for pole position later on, but we've seen a few times how Piastri can find his way up to performance through a race weekend as well. Lando through Sky Flat for the first time today. Nearly flat out, but no one was flat out through there yesterday. I really want to see it. Maybe it's the nerd in me that just wants to see a flatline trace of someone going pinned through Sky Flat turn 7. So wickedly quick, but everyone just with a slight lift. Oscar was fractionally quicker than Lando through that part, but was losing time yesterday all the way through the second half of the lap, starting at turn 9 and 10, the right, left, and then these final 2 corners at the end of the lap where Norris was hooked up. Very smooth all day through this final corner. I was standing on the inside of that one yesterday, and you could just see Lando picking his line, perfectly smooth on the steering and just taking a nice level of curb, not getting scrappy, not getting out wide on the exit. And he's delivered a pretty punchy first lap given the conditions there.
He was dominant here last year with the pole position and the victory by over 20 seconds margin on the road. He's 9 points back in the Formula One World Championship, trying to secure his maiden title. And it is going to put, when you consider it is a 2-horse race for the title, a lot of pressure on the strategy. Andy Singh there will be making those calls. Verstappen's out there on the medium tyre. Yeah, it is the medium tyre, just checking on that. The high-speed sweep is easily flat at this part of the circuit. First 7 corners of this circuit remain unchanged from when this circuit opened in 1948.
Piastri starting a flying lap on the soft tyres as well in your picture-in-picture on the left-hand side, and he's quite a lot quicker than Norris in the first sector. Verstappen on a set of mediums, so Piastri's a better benchmark right now. He was quicker than Lando in the first sector yesterday, but then, as I said, the time ebbed away. In the corners he's in right now, the right-hander, and then into this left, as Verstappen's time's ebbing away as well through the middle part of the lap, but on the mediums for Max.
Yeah, rotation of the car, absolutely crucial through turn 1, through turn 9. Let's see if Piastri can continue his momentum in the final part of the lap.
So once again, he's not able to match Lando in the middle part, through the right-left shuffle of that sort of makeshift chicane then, and out, using a little bit more curb than Lando out at turn 13, and now we pick him up on the run to the line. It's been small margins, and it's small margins again, but it's the same trend then.
So that's your form guide for later on in qualifying. Wait for the second sector time for Piastri. 700ths of a second between the top 2. Still, Lando Norris out in front. Let's go trackside now at turn 3. Haven't thrown to this man on a broadcast for a long time. Guido van der Garde, great to speak to you. What can you see turn 3?
Hey, Alex. Yeah, it's quite a special corner, obviously. I've been racing here before 2020. It was completely flat, maybe had like a little bit smaller banking, 3%, 4%. But then when they arrived with the Formula One here in 2020, they made the corner completely new. They made it like 90 degrees of banking. It's very, very high. And you see also the line is super high. When the cars are going in so fast to go really, really outside of the track to make use of this banking, you have this extra small grip and also go out super, super fast. You will be, if you do it correctly, going fast, let the car roll, and then be like a catapult out. That's the way to do it. I know it's hard, but it's a super nice, and for me, one of the toughest corner on this track.
Thank you, Guido. Is it slightly counterintuitive, Jolyon, when you've got a bank corner like that and you're having to run high when normally you'd be clipping apexes, and that's what you've been doing from a very young age behind the wheel?
Yeah, I remember the first year this came back on the calendar. It did take the drivers a few laps to work out what was going on, and then just realised, actually, hang on, why am I bothering getting low to that apex? Maybe let's just run it round. And then once you've been here a few years, and even the rookies have driven it in the lower formula, or they've just watched Formula One and just know that that's what you do now. But it's a strange phenomenon. Even within that, you can see difference in lines. So we saw, as Guido was talking there, George Russell in the background coming through, using a lot of road on the outside. I was there yesterday and saw Carlos Sainz almost going track limits wide on the outside, whereas Lando's tighter within the, he's still out wide, but not 2 wheels over the white line even. He's sort of dropping it in, slightly V'ing off the corner. And Oscar was using a little bit more around there as well. So there are differences in lines, within the wackiness of everyone missing the apex.
Guido van der Garde, a Formula One driver in 2013 for the Caterham team, a winner in the second tier as well. Race wins across the board. and a very knowledgeable driver. Great to have him watching trackside for us. This refurbished circuit that Formula One left behind. They always had a famous Formula 3 race here after Formula One left town in 1985, but the refurbishment taking place, the alterations to the final corner, turn 14 and turn 3, the banking there as Formula One returned. It's a fantastic circuit, and we're enjoying our visit to the banks of the North Sea.
There's no corners like it. I've never driven this track.
Apart from in a golf buggy.
Apart from in a golf buggy, to be fair, I didn't even drive it then. I was a passenger. I've cycled it and I've walked it, but yeah, you know, to drive a corner like this, it is such a strange thing, and there's nothing else on the calendar. You have sort of cambers and off cambers where you're scrabbling around on rear grip. You're still diving in for an apex, but I think with turn 3, because it's the banking ramps up to the outside, the lower part of it is less banked. But as you get to the outside, it really does ramp up where Guido was standing. So that's why you see the big difference of everyone just using the higher level of banking around the top of it.
Track temperature is 23 degrees, it is 20 degrees air temperature, and after the heavy rain of earlier on, it is a glorious day by the seaside in the Netherlands.
Beautiful, beautiful day to be by the sea.
Just a few miles outside of the capital of Amsterdam, and these are the corners that I was saying remained. Obviously they've changed, but the layout of the original circuit took them all the way to turn 7, then they cut in. It used to be high-speed blast and what is now a holiday camp where the old track used to go. State of play, Lando Norris ahead of Oscar Piastri. Hadjar has set a really strong time. That's on the soft tyre. He's gone ahead of Max Verstappen, who set his benchmark on the medium. And again, the Aston Martins looking very, very well matched. Stroll very close to Fernando Alonso. Alonso in P5.
So Max going again on the medium. Lando went again on the soft and managed to improve his first sector, so he now has the personal best in all 3, but not on the same lap. So the time remains 700 as Max really floats it in towards turn 11, the rear going light and a little bit of correction going on there. He's getting better. The track is just going to rubber in now, having had the rain. The grip levels coming up, and we will see an improvement here with Max, who will take a nice slipstream as well over the line from Esteban Ocon ahead, and he's 4 tenths away from the McLarens, but on the medium tyre, not shabby. Leclerc a couple of tenths back from him, also on the medium, so they will find a little bit when they switch to the C4.
Ayumu Iwasa, former driver in Formula 2, race winner in that category, and he's done plenty of FP1s as well. A reserve driver down there at Racing Bulls. They're running Isaac Hadjar in his first full Formula 1 season, and incredibly, Liam Lawson in his first full Formula 1 season, even though he made his debut here, standing in for the injured Daniel Ricciardo a couple of years ago. As Charles Leclerc reports that the traffic is crazy, 2.6 miles, 4.2 kilometres, and they are fighting for tarmac out there.
Bad luck for Hamilton, who's got a nice bit of clear space to finish this lap on the mediums as well. He's done a couple of flyers already, dialing it in. Quite aggressive on the entry there to turn 13, cranking on the lock, but the rear of the Ferrari remained planted for him. So here he comes across the line. That's a really tidy lap there for Lewis, 3 tenths away from the McLarens, again on the medium.
Lewis Hamilton, just the one podium around this racetrack back in 2021, when he had a thrilling race with Max Verstappen in their battle for the ages that went all the way to the last lap of the championship. That's the only podium appearance. Was in the mix in 2022. As we check in down at Haas, and Laura Muller, who's been in conversation with Lawrence Barretto. You can hear that interview later in the weekend. Stoffel van Dorn, another former champion of the second tier, involved in the reserve driver program and development driver program at Aston Martin. And Valtteri Bottas, he will be vacating a similar role at Mercedes before he moves to Cadillac, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast. Final 29 minutes then, with the track temperature now up to 23 degrees, and Oscar Piastri is out there on the soft tyre.
So, Norris has done 2 flying laps on 1 set of tyres. This is Piastri's 2nd flying lap on his first set of tyres as well. So Lando managed to improve his first sector. Can Oscar do likewise? Coming through the beam, and wow, yes he can. 3 tenths up on Norris in that first part. So again, having that stronghold in the first third of the lap But this is where it tends to go away for Oscar so far. So has he been able to work on things as he's been in the pit lane?
Okay, let's get trackside with Guido once again, and we will see what it looks like at turns 11 and 12.
Yeah, Alex, we're standing here at turn 11, 12. It's the Ernst chicane, used to be an old director of Zandvoort. It's not an easy chicane, as can at evaluation, especially from the part where you enter, you need to be not braking too late, because if you overshoot, you miss the second one. It's a combination between 11 and 12. So the most important thing is the 12. The 12 is going down. You have to be really, really on the inside. You use the grip, you use the momentum, and be really, really early on power. I think that's the key. And to be honest, I have to say, there's a lot of fans here on the grandstands. It looks fully packed. Let's see if we can find a guy who enjoys it. You're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's very nice here.
What are you looking forward to today? What do you think about the top 3 in qualifying?
I don't think it's Max, but I think it's Piastri, 1 and 2 Norris, and 3 Max.
I think it can be right. Back to you guys.
Guido agrees. Very good. Yeah, such enthusiasm from the crowd. The atmosphere, one of the best things about this Grand Prix weekend. And even the Max Verstappen fans realistic to know that a top 3 would be a good performance. Do you concur with the prediction, Jody?
Hey, that's been my prediction all week. Across the platforms.
Bad news, Piastri fans. Bad news. Palmer's backed him.
I would have changed it this morning, because I think Norris just looked really strong yesterday. You will notice that Piastri took himself to the top of the times, though, on that second flyer. But I still think Lando maybe is the driver to beat heading into qualifying now. McLaren 1-2 looks to be a bit of a given after yesterday.
We would have said that in Budapest, though, at this stage.
We would. And
so that's the joy of F1 this year.
Even in Budapest, you could have asked me halfway through the race, I would have thought Leclerc could hang on for the win. It's amazing how much he fell off. I would never predict that he can repeat his qualifying antics around this circuit, but it is not the easiest one to overtake on. So if an interloper can get into the mix on the front row, even on pole, they have a chance to hold on. Could well be a one-stopper, even though the tyres are softer this year. The degradation didn't look massive for the disrupted FP2 session that we had yesterday.
Right, these guys just sit in the middle of the track.
Copy that.
It was this part of the circuit that we did just see Liam Lawson having to really duck out of to get to the right-hand side and avoid someone. So more frustration about traffic.
Yeah, you know Formula One's back when it's a practice session and there's complaints about traffic. I have to make sure that is sorted out, though, when it comes to Q1 later on. This is not a circuit you can afford to find yourself at the back. It's no bailing yourself out. Like we've seen in the past around Monza, when the 3 chicanes, that's our race next week, and the 3 chicanes do provide overtaking opportunities. We've seen so many drivers come from the back to the front there. This is one clear place to get by. We're heading to it on board with Alex Albon, who's just set the 9th fastest time.
Should we give a little honourable shout-out to Ollie Behrman at this stage? Hard tyre, done 9 laps on it. He's up in 4th in the Haas. Occasionally, he just puts in these real turns of pace, and that's seriously quick for Behrman on a hard tyre. The rest of the hard runners are, including his teammate, not in the top 14. So Behrman, if he can put on some softs, which he will be doing now in the pit lane, should be able to get that Haas well up the order.
Yeah, Haas have not maximised the updates that they brought to the car. The cars collided at Silverstone. It was a very, very frantic race, that one. And he had the penalty under the red flag at the same circuit. Trying to return to the points in the Grand Prix format for the first time since back in Bahrain. He did score in the sprint race in Belgium, but that offers fewer points to the drivers. But he will be looking to have a clean weekend, extract the pace that he knows he's got, and try and convert one of these, because he's trying to do that a couple of times. And with that midfield battle, Haas need to respond to Aston Martin, to Sauber and to Williams, all ahead. And Esteban Ocon tied 7 apiece in the qualifying head-to-head battle with his full rookie season teammate. A 3 Grand Prix last year, Oliver.
But the fun thing is that all of them have a chance of getting good points every weekend. Haas now have slipped 10 points behind Racing Bulls in 8th place. They're in 9th, still 15 ahead of Alpine, and will be thankful that that Gasly at the moment is the only driver scoring points in that team. But anyone can score points. Gasly's even been managing to rack up a few points recently. Sixth at Silverstone was a standout, got in the points again at Spa. Was unlucky not to score in the sprint as well there. So there is no particularly bad team or bad car here. And if you hook it up in the midfield, you can be right at the sharp end. I'm interested to see what Alonso can do when he puts on another set of softs. At the moment, he's just run the one set. He did a longer run on it. 12th and 13th for two Aston Martins. So Stroll's made up for a bit of lost ground yesterday as well. Can he pump in some good times again, or was yesterday a little bit flattering for Aston Martin?
Looking forward to that answer. Fernando Alonso said that he had decent pace in both sessions yesterday, wanted, and he mentioned what Jolyon just mentioned, wanted to carry on the form and battle the top teams later in the weekend. Because sometimes Aston Martin have fallen away. We are on board with George Russell, his best result second. The 2022 Dutch Grand Prix, got past Lewis Hamilton. Wasn't happy with the strategy he was on at the end of that race, a late restart. And Russell, in this campaign, 6 times on the podium, including the last Grand Prix back in Budapest. It is Piastri ahead of Norris, as Max Verstappen heads out again on the medium tyre.
Yeah, stays on that same tyre that he's done 9 laps on in this session as well. So there will be a flurry of action later on, but with the way that the track is ramping up, you see Russell jumping up to the top 3, the time's still coming down. Everyone wants to wait until the opportune moment to put on the soft and get the best feel for it before qualifying later on. We are not anticipating more rain, but you never know with the way that the wind's blowing off the coast. It could come later on. There's scattered showers around, but we think it will be a dry qualifying, so everyone just wants to wait and make the absolute most of what they've got before doing.
Glorious direction change, high-speed stuff, and then the speed beginning to be sent away. This is one of the corners where Charles Leclerc was really struggling yesterday, having to wait to rotate the car through turn 9. Then we'll send it on the back straight in the direction of Guido van der Garde, who is still in the grandstand at the corner that we're heading to.
Yeah, I mean, it's packed here in this corner. The sun starts to shine a little bit harder. The track is ramping up, as Jolyon mentioned already. Also the line, especially turn 12, you see Max coming through here. You see the understeer of the car. The car does not want to turn. He has too much understeer, where he was already complaining about yesterday, but still doesn't look better compared to yesterday. But if you see the McLarens going through this corner, it's just unbelievable. It comes in, it turns straight away, and it goes so much earlier on power than the rest. So the McLarens look super, super strong here.
Thank you, Guido. Yeah, the McLarens really enjoying this racetrack like they did 1 year ago. I can tell you, it is deafening in any bowl that you get at the end of the pit lane in that, what is effectively an arena section down there, 11 and 12.
And the way that the track is as well, it backs up on you. So at turn 3, you then have behind you have the start-finish straight, everyone roaring up towards 200 miles per hour here.
You start, man.
Yeah, copy that.
Yep, written that one down. Thank you, Yuki. Yuki Tsunoda is currently in 12th position, 9/10 of a second away from the benchmark pace. Max Verstappen half a second away in 8th position. Tsunoda, another driver fighting for his Formula One future as Red Bull try to solve the conundrum of the second seat. And Max Verstappen finds himself getting in close proximity to the Alpine of Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, he's backed out of that one. I don't know if he thought that Pierre got in his way there through 9 and 10, but Max was trying to improve on the mediums that we saw him leave the garage on. Plenty of laps on them. Let's have a look at what it looked like from his point of view. He's already wide at turn 10. He's understeering, and I don't think there's anything that Gasly was in the way for. I don't think Pierre was particularly in the way. A bit of dirty air, maybe.
Is it time to get on with it, Jolyon Palmer?
I think it is.
It's a thin racetrack. They're just on different pages, weren't they? Gasly sees Verstappen go through.
Well, I think it's frustration for Max because, again, the balance just didn't look there as he got in towards turn 10. The fronts were washing, he's understeering wide, and then you're late to throttle, and then there's a car to vent your anger on the exit. So Pierre gets a fistful of it.
Let's go downstairs to the pit lane to hear how things are looking with the strategy, Ruth.
Thank you very much, Shakesy. Yes, so FP3 obviously is for the drivers to tune out understeer in turn 3 and turn 10 like Max Verstappen's trying to do in Red Bull. But the strategists, bear in mind, we have to get the timing right for qualifying. So we're trying to learn how many laps we can last on that soft tyre. And also, we have to use the tyres up that we're not planning on keeping for Sunday. Now, we have an 8-10 split. 8 teams have got rid of their extra medium and their extra hard tyre. We all start with the same number at the beginning of the race weekend. So that means we've got 1 medium, 1 hard, which means their baseline strategy going to the race is probably a 1-stop. 2 teams, McLaren and Aston Martin, have saved an extra hard tyre. Now, that means they could be thinking it's potentially a 2-stop. Now, McLaren, maybe they're fast enough to do whatever they want, but it's super interesting that Aston Martin are very confident, because that means they've got an extra hard for Sunday. If it goes to a 2-stop, they will be in a really strong position. But also going into qualifying, it shows they're actually quite confident, because they're going to go and be fighting with 1 less soft tyre. Strategy doesn't stop for anybody, even in a pit lane.
Thank you for the update, Ruth. Appreciate that. Down there at Aston Martin, but all the teams perfecting what they've got underneath them. Good to get the read of which tyres they are discarding, which they are prioritising, and the efforts from Pirelli to turn this race into a 2-stopper with the softer compounds. Teams having to adjust to that. Was expected to be rain in FP2 yesterday. It never arrived, and that is a great shot of the huge grandstands that we've got at turn 1. Heading through, and then the banking begins. Charles Leclerc logging another lap, heading into Hugenholtz corner.
Very quiet racetrack for the 2 Ferraris. Just them, Antonelli and Gasly circulating at the moment. Everyone else in the pits getting ready for a quali sim run at the end of the session now, bolting on some softs. But Ferrari still wanting to find a little bit more before they go back and have a look through the data and make the tyre change. So this is a used medium for both Charles and for Lewis. You can see in the picture-in-picture on the left-hand side, heading into Hugenholtz himself. Sliding now from Leclerc coming out of turn 9. These tyres past their best, and he's already oversteering then into turn 10, as well as you overheat the tyres through the faster corners.
I have a problem with the downshift paddle.
Okay, copy. We'll look into it.
Antonelli reporting the issue with the downshift paddle on his steering wheel. And they're looking into it. We haven't heard any updates beyond that, but he's just looking for clean sessions. Can't find it at the moment. A little bit of an issue. Hopefully will not impact him running further in the hour, because he needs every minute he can get out there around a circuit that he's had some success at in the junior categories.
He's done loads of laps already. 23 on the board for Antonelli. Nothing in anger on a soft yet, but racking them up so he can just get up to speed again around this circuit. Difficult track, certainly for a rookie. Certainly for a rookie that's been rushed through to Formula 1 as well and is a little bit under fire. So Kimi at least is able to get a feel for it. Back in the garage now, and they can have a look through. Leclerc was really running out of medium tyres at the end of that. Scrabbling to the line, losing loads of time. Let's have a look at Norris. Fresh softs for Lando. Oscar stays in the garage, so we're going to get a full glimpse of a Norris push lap.
Sends it through Tarzan corner, heading to Hugenholtz, the third one, the high banking. See what the exit's like.
Look how tight he stays there compared to some. Barely touches that white line, so it is a different line that Lando's doing, just slightly veering it off to get the exit as well. And we head up, and that is a lot of new tyre grip coming now for Lando, and a rubbered-in track and a dialed-in driver into the faster stuff. Masters box, still turning as you're braking in towards box 9. Turn 10 immediately greets you on the exit of this one, and now this is where you're finding the grip. Even though he's having to shuffle the wheel very slightly, the grip level comes up so much in that right and left, and you feel it when it's going away on a used tyre as Lando's putting the sectors together. And this has been his stronghold so far through the weekend. The final sector, 11 and 12 where Guido is, and then just a dash of brake and through. Open the DRS out of 14, and we will see the new benchmark of the weekend.
Lando Norris with a glorious lap to log a 1:08.972. Fantastic speed through Sky Flat corner as well. The 7th turn on the racetrack, and that is a personal best in all 3 sectors, the best of the session in all 3 sectors. The pole position holder and race winner of last year picking up where he left off. And we will also get a read of others out there. What can a three-time winner of this Grand Prix do by way of response? Max Verstappen attacking the racetrack.
It's an absolute stonker of a lap from Norris. 7 tenths quicker than his pole lap last year, so he is finding his feet. The track is obviously coming up. Max getting a little wide out of Hugenholtz there, and looking like he might have lost momentum over the curb. Oscar Piastri behind is just opening his lap as well, so that'll be a good comparison with Norris. And you can see Verstappen nowhere through the first sector, maybe just losing too much on the exit of turn 3, which is where Piastri's heading to right now. Using a little bit more and holding it higher through turn 3, running the curb. Is it going to be quick as we get a first sector time from Oscar?
Oscar Piastri a 10th down on what Norris was able to do at that part of the racetrack. Max Verstappen to 11 and 12. Tidy through there, but he's 6 tenths of a second away from Norris.
They're still not at the races. Red Bull, Piastri right out wide, coming through turn 9 as well, sliding at the rear, holding on to it and just about avoiding the grass, taking a bit of curve through turn 10 as Verstappen completes his lap in the Red Bull. Piastri heads to the final sector.
9 tenths of a second. Max Verstappen, the reigning world champion, from Lando Norris on the timing page. The main contender. The main obstacle for Lando Norris this weekend is the driver that we are on board with, the Australian Oscar Piastri, out of the 14th and final corner on this 2.6 mile circuit, and he's 2 tenths of a second away, but it underlines what a lap it was from Lando Norris.
Yeah, it was a really, really big lap from Lando. Let's see George Russell in the Mercedes. Can he be the favourite to complete the podium? Using a bit more curb coming out of turn 13. The floor just rubbing along the ground there on the raised exit curve as Russell's desperate to get on the gas early, comes across the line, goes third, but blimey, 9 tenths down on Lando's time.
Hulkenberg goes into 7th position. We're on board with Stroll, who's ahead of Fernando Alonso in FP1. Soft tyres on the car. Russell and Verstappen separated by 15 points in the World Championship, battling over thirds. Stroll goes into P5 behind the pair of them.
Fernando Alonso is out on a soft tyre, but has aborted his first push lap, so we'll wait a little bit longer for Fernando. So I think the Lando-Oscar gap has remained similar, but this time Lando's found a first sector as well, and that's why it's actually gone out towards a quarter of a second. He's been quick generally through the second half of the lap, but now he's found that pace in the first half of the lap. Oscar has a little bit more work to do. Earlier on, the tyre was good enough for 2 flyers. There is enough time for 2 flyers as well. Norris has come back into the pit, but maybe we'll just make a change and go again. We will see if Piastri does the same.
Nice time for Isaac Hadjar, goes ahead of Yuki Tsunoda in the senior team entry of the Red Bull, but behind Lance Stroll. Fine margins between Stroll and Hadjar in the battle for 5th position. This is on board with Oscar Piastri heading into turn 2.
You see the wider line that he takes here, gets out wide, and then just holds it early on the throttle. So that's okay. He didn't lose any momentum, I don't think, on the curb. He's not too wide through the mid corner of 3 either. It's just probably the second 2/3 of the corner where Lando just dips down slightly to straighten off that exit, whereas Oscar gets earlier on the gas and does more of a U-shape round the corner.
Fernando Alonso going again, having backed out of his initial run, slightly deep into turn 12. Driver who has been on the podium around here in the past. His personal best in terms of a starting position at this circuit is P5. He'll be chasing that again today, but he won't be. Oh, that's way too close for this stage of practice. Alonso peeling to the pit lane. George Russell having to take evasive action for the 2nd day in a row, and he peels round for another lap. But that was tighter than he would want to be with 9 minutes to go and a couple of hours until qualifying.
Was Fernando wanting to pit, or was he just trying to find a way around the cars ahead of him and then saw George coming across the pit and hammered on the brakes suddenly? Strange on the end of a flying lap then from Fernando to suddenly bolt to the right-hand side.
And he goes through the pit lane. So he's gone past his team and he goes again. 2 drivers finding themselves with total confusion at speed here. This is out of the 14th and final corner. Oh, very close to contact with the wall and the Mercedes.
I think he was aiming to pit. Let's have a look then on board.
They don't look at the mirrors, man.
He's flashed up behind Russell. pretty quickly, but George is just ambling back. And actually does look in the mirrors in the nick of time and does the sensible thing there. Yeah, it's difficult when you're coming through that final corner, and then I think Fernando probably was aggressively bolting for the pit lane, but I'm not entirely sure because he was keeping it pinned as he was doing so and was trying to close out a soft tyre lap. You don't normally see someone head that sharply to the right-hand side to pass slower cars then.
No, an unusual one, but they got away with it. And Russell, the third fastest time, is now ahead of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz has attacked, and Williams sensing an opportunity there on the soft tyre.
So now we wait for the Ferraris out on soft tyres finally. They've done a lot of laps on the mediums, they've racked them up, and Charles Leclerc will be the first of the two to start a flying lap in just a few moments' time, just completing his out lap as we watch Alex Albon see if he can get a second Williams up towards the top 5, coming through the middle sector.
The tyre driver has started in the top 4 here in the past. Wind direction crucial for Williams. They can turn against them and they can lose all competitive nature behind the wheel of that car, but if it's in their favour, they're right in the mix. And even though they are focusing all of their attention on 2026, that race car has worked in ways that exceeded even their expectations. Albon P6 right now.
Tidy for Williams, but I want to see what Ferrari can do, because I think the pace on the medium tyre was much more encouraging than yesterday as we ride on board with Charles Leclerc. That is not a great first sector, nearly half a second down on Norris. He barely sounded like he lifted a tool though through Sky Flag.
This was struggle town yesterday for Charles Leclerc. Turn 9.
You want to feel with the new softs that the grip level's coming up and look better. He's starting to fight the traction and he's not getting towards an apex at turn 10 either. So it's not the tidiest of middle sectors as the speed comes off through 9 and 10. Time ebbing away still. I mean, it'll be competitive because he just needs to be within 9/10 of a second to be in the top 3. The gulf between the top 2 and 3rd is just whopping.
It feels like it's getting bigger and bigger. They've been rattling off the 1-2s for fun. Final corner building up to 200 miles per hour for Charles Leclerc. The 8-time Grand Prix winner goes into 6th position. He's 9/10 of a second away. Said yesterday, miles off. And by his standards, 27 times on pole position in Formula 1, that is miles off.
If you take McLaren out, it's a really close field, isn't it? From Russell to Tsunoda is half a tenth. 8 drivers.
Antonelli improves to 16th position, ahead of Ocon, Gasly, Alonso and Colapinto, but that's not what he would have been expecting with his teammate up in 3rd and some form around here. Some title-winning days for him around this circuit in the past for Formula Regional, and unable to find a lap time that time. 1.7 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, just had a disastrous start to the weekend, and even though you have 3 hours of practice, if you lose the first, you're just on the back foot, particularly when you're a rookie and you need all the experience. So, Kimi with plenty to do heading into qualifying later on. Half a second between 3rd and 11th. We've had some close sessions, but half a tenth between 8 might be pushing it a little bit at this stage. Bortoletto right there with Tsunoda as well. Here he goes on a second flyer.
Bortoletto, 8-6 up in the teammate head-to-head. Driver coming off the back of his best result in Formula 1 in his rookie campaign. P6, really strong P6 as well throughout the Hungarian Grand Prix. Wasn't clinging on with a train of cars behind him. Genuinely competitive all the way through. He had targeted in the rounds before the summer break an improvement in qualifying. And crucially, you highlighted it earlier in the year, taking that step forward when you get to Q3. He was able to do that in Budapest. Big points as a result.
Yeah, Alonso going again. Hamilton is starting a flying lap now. He's aborted his first attempt, so that's Lewis flashing past us into another soft tyre attempt. We'll pan back to see Fernando come across the line, and we will get a chance to see what Aston Martin can do. Obviously compromised tyres now, having had the run-in with Russell and a drive through the pits, so moves up to the top 10, but there is plenty more in there, I think, for Alonso and Aston Martin, and kind of proven by Stroll being up in 8th, up the road from Alonso, which you don't see too often. What about Hamilton? Still the only driver now not to improve on a soft tyre. Out there trying to put a clean lap on the board through the middle, the first sector, and he's improved, but it's not a great one for Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton far happier on Thursday than he was at the conclusion of the Hungarian Grand Prix. This is one of the racetracks that he's not won at in Formula One. There aren't many.
So McLaren they've taken the shackles off, haven't they? This is McLaren in full quali sim mode. I think they don't care anymore about the rest of the field and trying to hide what they can do. Hamilton over track limits, and that'll be the first soft tyre lap, and that's why he aborted. As soon as you go a little bit wide, you're heading to that barrier as well, and he managed to just get the car rotated and not end up plonking it in as Lance Stroll did yesterday.
Gasly with his teammate in the way. The one-time Grand Prix winner finding Franco Colapinto occupying the racetrack at the final corner.
Yeah, I think Colapinto was coming across to the pit lane as well, wasn't he? And you might think maybe Gasly should have just gone around the outside, but that is actually still quite a turn to do. And you have the DRS open. You have plenty of cornering. It's right at this part of the circuit. So on board it looks easy, but that's really banked and it's dusty out the top. You don't want to be DRS open, keeping it pinned round there.
Earlier on, we saw a really strong lap time for Ollie Behrman on the hardest possible compound, bolted on the softs and unable to find anywhere near the top 10. You're looking at GP, head of racing and race engineer for Max Verstappen at Red Bull Racing.
So Hamilton improves, but not by anywhere near enough. All three sectors, but just not feeling the love of the soft tyre. Same for Behrman. Did that really good lap on the hard early on. Bolts on a soft, so 2 steps softer in compound, and hasn't found anywhere near the improvement he'd be expecting to.
This is the third place Mercedes of George Russell. McLaren are having their own private battle. Look at that, millimetre perfect as he runs through turn number 12. This is his teammate by way of comparison.
Yeah, lifting that inside front, just locked up as he's coming through turn 12.
You got an idea when we sent Guido van der Garde trackside of how much it does fall away there at turn 12.
Well, it does, because all you have to do is just brush the brake pedal, but because the front left is in the air, it will just stop rotating. The front right will carry on going, and that's where all the load is, through the left-hand part of the corner. It's a really unique part, and actually even the front left's hanging over the glued down gravel. I lost the word I was going to go for at that point.
I always love the hesitations. I was like, what's this sentence going to be?
Yeah. What's it when you paint the house in
what, varnish it or pebble dash it?
Pebble dash. That's the one. Felt like a weird word as I was going to come out with it. Pebble dash.
Very good. 1 minute to go. Kimi Antonelli going again. 19 years of age. Who was announced to the world as the Mercedes race driver last year at Monza. Toto Wolff saying in the team principal's press conference that maybe he looks back and goes, the FP1 run on soft tyres early on the track, then the announcement the next day as Antonelli's going to try and pick his way by, and no way through. And he has to back out at the end. Remains in 17th position.
The track's just so narrow. Yeah, it's difficult to appreciate from some of the shots, but then you realise Antonelli then trying to improve. That would have been a better lap for Kimi. But then you just find 2 cars both just dawdling along and trying to find your way past them both at full tilt without thinking they're going to start just jinking to the pit lane or anything else. You kind of have to be cautious at this stage of practice.
Do you remember last year Kevin Magnussen was passed by 3 cars in a couple of turns? That's about the only way that you'll ever get 3 wide around this circuit, if a car is just on ancient tyres and being passed. Yeah, cars absolutely everywhere. 1 year ago. This is a replay of Antonelli pushing to the line. The Red Bull of Yuki Tsunoda and the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso in the way. Antonelli having to back out.
Man, this guy is a complete idiot, huh?
Totally agree.
So it's Stroll here.
Yes, it is.
Who's busy saying Tsunoda's an idiot, whilst Antonelli now thinks Stroll's an idiot.
Yeah, he blocked me.
Okay, copy.
In nicer words, actually, for Kimi. But yeah,
Sounds fairly chilled.
and we've already seen the Fernando moment as we see it.
Alex Albon, George Russell.
Nah, Albon saw that one coming and blended in behind George. Sauber guys having a nice little nosy at that.
Yeah, looking at the drama from the neighbours further down the pit lane. Well, cleaner out there in terms of the performance of the drivers. Little bit of impeding, very, very busy track. But still, Lando Norris the driver to beat. And that performance across all three sectors of the racetrack means that he has topped all the practice sessions heading into the crucial qualifying hour later on to set the grid for the Dutch Grand Prix.
I mean, it's going to be close. It's going to be a McLaren duel out front. I would be amazed if anyone can throw their hat into the ring from the Ferrari camp, the Mercedes, even Verstappen. But it is Norris who's just, it's one of those weekends, a bit like Austria, where it's every lap now for Lando that we're seeing. Head to head, he's a little bit up on Oscar. He is dialed in this weekend. It's a circuit he's gone well at in the past, won here last year convincingly. Has Oscar got anything more in there to battle? But at the moment, I feel like this is in Lando's hands, and if he just does the best lap he can do through qualifying, I don't know if Oscar's got it in him in terms of one lap.
Van delivering under pressure, drivers are heading to the line. Complete their practice starts. Generating the tyre temperature, Oscar Piastri going through the start procedure. And 0.2 of a second between the pair of them. And then the rest of the field way back, but very, very tight between Russell, Sainz, Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. Top 10 completed by Albon, Stroll, Hadjar and Alonso. So different gaggles of battles in FP3. That means that getting through into Q3 is going to be ultra tight. And we'll have a couple of battles to focus on in qualifying. The headline one, the two drivers trying to become world champion for the first time, Norris and Piastri.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. A championship battle that's very close with the guy that's just a little bit behind, seeming a little bit ahead this weekend. And then who on earth will join them in the top three? I mean, it could be anyone's game. You've got Sainz ending up fourth, Russell in third, Verstappen on home soil with great form around here, Ferrari getting closer, Alonso not showing what he could do in this session, but did yesterday and looks quick. Could be a day for an underdog to get up in the top three.
An opportunity, especially for Carlos Sainz, who started the weekend bemoaning the fact that he didn't take his opportunities when Williams were so strong at the start of the year. Or maybe the races didn't break his way. He was in great position in Imola and it didn't work out for him. He is a driver who will desperately want to take that form into qualifying, and he will attempt to find himself in the upper echelons, like he has done in the past here with Ferrari. Let's take you through the order then. Glorious day here at Zandvoort. And a glorious racetrack if your name is Lando Norris. Top of every practice session so far. Oscar Piastri remains the driver threatening, and George Russell a long way back, but winning that gaggle. So the McLaren scrapping, and then Russell ahead of Sainz, Verstappen and Leclerc. Then Albon with the next battle ahead of Stroll, Hadjar and Alonso. His first push lap was compromised, so Alonso should have more speed in the tank for the 10th place man. Let's go to the